cardiovascular death for those who also have known heart disease, so it could help save your life from heart attack or stroke. And
on dialysis or has severe kidney problems. Taking Jardiance can solve chronic.
I just want to test my audio. We changed the internet.
I can hear you.
It's not pixelated anymore like it used to be?
No, significantly better. Give it a try. Megan, I put you as a co-host as well so that you can help me out with the participant admission.
Okay, sounds good. I'll be right on.
Okay.
Sarah, was there a memo for the reentry portion?
I don't think
It's
so.
Thing I can't seem to find.
I think Bill just.
Or is it just a discussion?
I
Okay.
think he noted that it's going to be a discussion.
Okay, all right, perfect.
Here, Elmer.
Yes. Can you hear me? Oh. Did you just say something to me?
Oh, I just said I liked your picture.
Oh, thank you.
It's you with the sign that says "Miss you and the dog."
Thank you.
In the last 2 weeks.
James, you want me to let you record?
It's not working, Sarah. Did you give me permission yet?
No, sorry, I did not hear your response. So I will do that right now.
Sorry. Yes, please.
All right, I think you should be allowed to now.
I'm good. Thank you.
Great. If anybody would like to make public comment, put your name and address into the chat function. We've still got a few people coming in, so I'm going to wait to start the meeting officially. I'm going to continue to wait a couple more minutes just as people filter in. If anybody wants to make a public comment, then I see your name. If anybody else wants to make one, if they could put their name and address into the chat function. Okay, I think I'm going to get us started. I'm a little concerned that my connection is not great. Okay, so hopefully everyone can hear me. I'm going to call the meeting to order at 7:06. Does anybody have any commendations? Feel free to unmute.
I do.
Okay, go ahead, Sarah.
Um, I, first one I want to give, I just wanted to acknowledge that it's Teacher Appreciation Week. Work hard year round to make everything so special for our students. So I wanted to thank them and acknowledge that. And then I also wanted to acknowledge all the seniors, and just as we approach this time of year that's normally so special for them, just acknowledge them and thank them for just being troopers through all of this, and just acknowledge that.
Absolutely. Thanks, Sarah. I would also like to acknowledge sort of the town level of everything. They have been helpful in kind of getting some of the Zoom issues figured out, and just working with them, and getting the platform figured out, and allowing us to sort of jump on when needed. So a shout out to them. Any other commendations? Okay.
I would just like to second what, can you hear me?
Yes,
Sarah?
go ahead, David.
Oh, I would I would just like to echo the sentiments of Sarah Fox, and actually, the the other day that about gone down this road of uncharted waters. I'd just like to echo the sentiments of Dan and everyone else, and really recognize everything that's going on with the teachers. And additionally, as Sarah said, as the seniors are starting to move forward, there's been some really nice initiatives to have the lawn banners posted out in front of the homes for the seniors, and everybody who's been working on that. So I think that's really great that everybody's working to make that possible for the seniors.
Absolutely. Thanks, David. All right. If nobody else has anything, I think that brings us to Dan Howells. Dan, you want to give us or fill us in on how things are going on the student level?
Yeah. So I believe since last meeting, school was canceled for the rest of the year. So since then as well, there have been an increase in the Zoom meetings from different teachers, and each subject now has a scheduled time and day every week. So I could have English on Wednesdays at 10, so on and so forth, for the rest of everyone's classes. And those have been really helpful for just keeping on top of things and having teachers accessible for questions. Some teachers have been doing more like normal lectures, and some have just been kind of having sessions about upcoming assignments and things like that. So that has been very helpful. Also, going with the end of or school's cancellation, all events have been canceled. So the proms, the sophomore semi was canceled, which would have taken place a bit earlier in the year. Students are definitely disappointed by this, but I think something I've noticed, and that's a very positive thing, is that people are very understanding about the nature of this issue, and that while it is unfortunate that we'll have to miss our proms, graduations, and things like that. It's more important for the safety of everyone, at school and in town and beyond that. I think people have a good grasp on the scale of this issue and are willing to give in a little bit as they recognize that it's not something worth risking.
Great, thanks, Dan. I'm glad to hear that
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
things are kind of evening out and everybody's falling into a bit of a groove.
Definitely, yeah.
Sarah, can I,
All right.
for
Thank you.
accommodation?
Thanks, Dan. Sure, Bill.
Sarah, I'm sorry, it'll end up being accommodation. I know I'm a little out of order. But
Okay.
I'm just sitting listening to Dan's report, and it reminds me that how impressed I've been all year with Dan's participation as the student representative. He has been a regular attendee at our meeting. His reports are full, they're timely, they're very informative. And Dan, I just want to say thank you to you. You really do bring value added to these meetings with your participation. So I'd like to commend you and thank you for that.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Well said, Bill. I totally agree. I think we all do.
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks, Dan.
Thanks, Dan.
Yeah.
All right, that brings us up to public comment. If anybody wants to make a public comment, please put their name and address in the chat function. That way I know when to call on you. Right now we have Ben Berman. Go ahead, Ben.
Thanks, Sarah. Ben Berman, 43 Crestwood Road, Chair of FinCom. Good evening, school committee, administrators, and fellow citizens. First and foremost, hope this finds you all safe and healthy and, doing okay in this extremely difficult time. Second, talk about out of order. I don't want to steal anybody's thunder, but public comments first, so I'm going to steal some thunder. I just wanted to take a moment and provide a brief overview of what was discussed. The odds of that. Gotta love technology. Second, I'd like to take a moment to provide a brief overview of what was discussed this morning at FinCom school liaison meeting with two members of the school committee, Sarah Fox and Megan Taylor, two members of FinCom, Emily Belf-Becker, and myself, Jackie Belf-Becker, our chair of selectmen, Jason Silva, our town administrator, along with our school team, our outstanding school team of Michelle Cresta and Bill McDonough. In summary, it's terrific news. And I realize it's tough to deliver terrific news where we are right now with, the pandemic and being in our homes, and it's pretty surreal. But regarding the FY20 budget, it is terrific news. And I understand the superintendent, again, will walk us through this later tonight, so I don't want to steal too much of his thunder. But with just over a month left in FY20, the school is tracking over $200,000 surplus for the year. While some of the surplus is undoubtedly due to the savings as a result of this horrible pandemic, it is clear we would have been a significant surplus even without the pandemic. We were going to save money either way. Admittedly, I have been hoping to say these words for about a year. What a difference a year makes. David, Sarah Gold, and Megan, you fought a hell of a battle last year to balance the budget. Sarah Fox, while not on the committee then, you fought a hell of a battle behind the scenes. I'm grateful to you all. You all stood by Emily, Blair, myself, FinCom committee, the town, especially Jason Silva, and the selectmen, and stared adversity in the face and pushed for a responsible budget that you push for a responsible budget that gave kids some of what they wants and all of the needs at a time when that wasn't necessarily getting good press. But it was the right thing to do despite being pressured by others that it wasn't. Here we are a year later, announcing that the budget was more than enough, when other school committee members and school leaders pushed for a $1.2 million override. You three, along with FinCom and the selectmen and town leaders, knew it wasn't an appropriate ask at that time. There was extreme fiscal mismanagement that needed to be addressed before we hit the taxpayers' pockets. We needed to first clean up the mess and see if there was a real possibility we had enough money and didn't need to take from taxpayers. And here we are, a year later, we had more than enough money and never took additional funds from taxpayers. Not only that, but for the first time in many years on FinCom, and in anyone's memory that I know of, the schools are able to contribute their surplus to the long-term financial stability of the town. Of course, I'd be a fool, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Bill and Michelle and your team. Thank you for everything. You all have dealt with so much stress this year. The list is endless. And somehow you not only got us through it, but you kept us on budget. Not only that, but we're back on track. Indeed, what a difference a year makes. I'm almost done, Sarah, I promise. Last year was brutal for some of us, for myself personally, for our town administrator, and especially for 3 school committee members that dug their heels in and fought for the responsible and best approach for the kids, the teachers, and the school system's future. Sarah, I'm so proud of your leadership. Megan and David, you've done a terrific job. Sarah Fox, again, thank you for all you did behind the scenes last year. It pains me to say it, but Bill Belichick doesn't rest on one title, and neither should you. Pressure is on for another great run in FY21. Thank you again for your hard work, dedication, and balanced and fiscally responsible FY20. Good health and be well. Thank you for the time.
Thanks, Ben.
Thank you.
Right now, I don't have anybody else signed up for public comment. I'll just kind of make one more little plea. Feel free to unmute yourself if you want to make a public comment at this point, and then you can put your name and address in later. All right, I think we can move on then, and that brings us to the minutes. There were 2 sets of minutes on the agenda for approval tonight, the minutes from February 12th and the minutes from February 26th. Does anybody have any comments on them or any additions or subtractions? All right, then I will ask for a motion.
The only thing is, Sarah?
Yeah, go ahead, Jen, sorry.
Sarah?
Yep, go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to mention, not a big deal, it's just a typo. On the minutes for, hang on, February 26th, under commendations, just Mr. Glee's name is spelled incorrect. We just want to, it's section 1, item 2. I don't know if Lisa's on the call or not. I think she is.
She is.
I'll just send it to her in an email.
Perfect, thanks, Jen. All right, can I get a motion to approve the minutes from February 12th and February 26th of 2020?
So moved.
Megan moved.
Oh, second.
Jen second, thank you. Any other comments? Okay, I'll do a roll call. Sarah Gold, yes. Sarah Fox? Can you unmute yourself?
Yeah, or we can't hear you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. Jen Schaffner?
Yeah.
Megan Taylor?
Yes.
And David Harris?
Yes.
Yes.
Did you hear me?
Yes, thank you. I heard everybody say yes, so the motion will carry 5-0. All right, that brings us next to the superintendent's report. Bill, I will turn it over to you, and I'm going to allow you to share your screen, hopefully. Oh, great. I think you were able to do it, Bill, but unmute yourself.
it's just there.
Am I unmuted? Okay.
Yes, you are now unmuted, and you
Yeah.
were sharing your screen a moment ago, so you can share it.
You may regret unmuting me. Thank you, Sarah, and good evening, everyone. The first item, so next on the agenda under superintendent's report is a school closure update. There are 3 items related to that. I'm going to do a very, very brief update on the remote learning plan. Then Dan Bauer will will speak to some draft planning going on for graduation to fill you in on where we're at with that, where he is at, he and his team. And then some information relative to a reentry plan. That's when I have a document I'll share with you. So in terms of the remote learning plan, you received a memo from me yesterday sometime. And basically, we did receive updated guidance from DESE. We received that about 2 weeks ago, late on a Friday night. The guidance has been posted on the website along with the commissioner's memo. And that has also been, was just recently uploaded into your Dropbox, school committee members. So when you have a chance, some of you I know have looked at it already. There are just a couple of things I wanted to highlight. The commissioner reinforced in his updated guidance the 3 basic principles that all school districts should be following during period of school closure and implementation of remote learning plans. That has to do with the safety and well-being of students, families, and staff. You know, this has been and must continue to be our top priority as an educational community. We are focused not only on physical health, safety, and nutrition, but also on social, emotional, and mental health needs, which could intensify during this time. And our district has been paying close attention to that. The second principle indicates that this crisis disproportionately affects our most vulnerable students in terms of their physical and mental health and also academically. Equity needs to be a top consideration in planning efforts, especially as we've made and adjusted our plans in managing this extended closure. So we're working hard on that. And then maintaining connections between school staff, students, and families is paramount, particularly for the most vulnerable members of our school communities. And in my opinion, we have been, you know, you don't see it online every day, but offline, there's a lot of work happening around that particular principle. And we continue to work on ways to increase our regular communication, live communications, and connections with all of our students. There were 2 major updates provided in the recent guidance, and both of these will be a focus point for us as we move forward through the end of the year. The first from DESE, the guidance was to further define the recommended elements of a quality remote learning program, including a focus on teaching the content standards most critical for student success in the next grade level. And then the second was encouraging districts to move all students towards successful engagement in remote learning. So I would tell you that the task force has met a number of times, both to review the updated guidance and to continue to review on a regular basis the feedback that we receive. Adjustments have been made as necessary and where appropriate. You know, we continuously do that, and we will be doing that right up through the last few weeks of school. I think since the beginning, relative to the updated focus area of ensuring that all of our students are engaged. Our staff have, since the very beginning, been making regular efforts to monitor engagement. And I can tell you that in cases where engagement has been either sporadic or was not happening, a plan of action was developed and followed through on, and we're making that happen. So, you know, this is a learning process for all of us, both families at home and those of us in the educational community. And, you know, I wanted to give a shout out to our staff for their continuous improvement in this regard. And especially, I wanted to make a comment, given that this is Teacher Appreciation Week. Thank you for those who shared your appreciation at the outset of the meeting. But I'd like to take this opportunity. I think it's a perfect time to express my appreciation to all of our staff, to all of our teachers. I think you may have heard me say this a number of times in the past, but something I shared fairly early on in my tenure, and that was that I quickly became aware that despite some of the chaos and turmoil that existed in the central office area for a good part of the second half of the year, you know, none of that, my observation has been that none of that chaos and turmoil crept down into the building level, and our administrators and staff did not let that impact the fine work that they do each and every day. So thank you for that, and to all of our teachers and staff, thank you for the fine work you've done this year, and most especially have continued to do during this very difficult period of time. So thank you very much. Are there any comments or questions related to the remote learning plan before we go on to graduation?
Jen, did you have your hand up? You're okay. All right. No, I think you can go ahead, Bill.
Okay, great. Thank you. Ian, how are you? Are you there? There he is. You need to be unmuted.
Can you hear me now?
Can hear
Yes,
you.
we can.
You're all set.
Okay. We good?
Yes.
All right. I'll just give an update where we're at right now, and I appreciate the time. And obviously, you know, I can't underscore the disappointment that our seniors have, and certainly our families too, and our staff in terms of what's happening. And nobody ever anticipated the end of a high school career for anybody. And I appreciate how our students have persevered, and I think they've done a great job in spite of the situation. So, you know, one of the things that we want to make sure that we do is honor our seniors as best as we can in light of the situation, and make sure that we honor in a way that they will be proud, their families will be proud, and the community will be proud. And one thing that I know coming in as a new principal 4 years ago is I snuck in the commencement, and I know how important it is, and how impressed I've been with it. And we've tried some tweaks and upgrades as we've moved along. So we take this work very, very seriously, and we've been working really hard. And we still know that, you know, obviously, I think the most frustrating thing, to be honest with you, is, you know, things are evolving, things are changing, and the uncertainty. And so we want to make sure that we do the best that we can moving forward, but also keep an eye out to certainly being able to pivot and be flexible as things may change, as we know. So I will say that we've met with stakeholders. We've met with our senior class officers a number of times, our senior class advisor. We've also communicated with the Board of Health and Public Safety, obviously Bill, and our staff within our building that works on graduation, and that includes our assistants, my administrative assistant, and many others that help out. So we're trying to figure out what is the best scenario that we could provide, again, the best celebration of our seniors. We owe it to them, I owe it to them, and we're committed to that piece. So as we kind of peeled through and had discussions with the class officers, we're like, what is the best scenario? What can we do? And one of the things that is nerve-wracking is the fact of trying to kick things down the road to a point where, with the uncertainty, that I would not want to get into a situation where you move things into the latter part of the summer and then things still haven't changed, and our students then start to move on to college and to other aspects of their life. So we're like, can we somehow work on something that gives us the best of both worlds? Can we create a celebration currently, and then also with an eye to celebrate at a later time? So we still have a lot of work to do. This is not a final plan by any means. And I'm still working on communication with the senior parents too, and the class of 2020. So as we looked at this, we were trying to figure out what guidelines can we follow to move through. And certainly based on where we're at in social distancing, we kind of looked at like, what's the most challenging option that we could put together, the best option we could put together. So the students felt very strongly about being able to, caps and gowns, being able to have something that they could maybe even cross the stage in some capacity, and understanding that we're not in a time where everything can be as it was. So I think the big piece is we've been looking at if we need to go with a virtual option. We've been researching that one because that's the most challenging and most difficult option there is, because there's a lot of interface that would have to take place to make that happen. And also making sure that we have a quality professional type of virtual situation that would allow for everybody to be proud of. So Jostens is our yearbook. They do our yearbooks, and they also have a professional platform that they're offering the schools. We've been researching that, and also knowing that it would require a lot of work and a lot of planning to pull this off, because you would not only have to have a production where you have speeches, you have the music, you have, if you can, have an ability to have kids cross the stage and integrate that into a video. You would need some time to make sure you can edit that professionally with help of our AV people as well, and then be able to stream that out live during that time so everybody could watch it, not only our seniors and their families, but other community members, as well as relatives who certainly can't travel during this time. So looking through that, it's pretty complex. And we've been studying, like, in the senior officers have given us the feedback in this one. So we've been able to look at elements of the programming we've used before in terms of the speeches, in terms of the music. So we've been able to sort that through, put together a graduation program that we would still have, but also the pieces like, how do you organize and set up something that would allow everyone to pick up their caps and gowns, to pick up their, we call it the senior swag, in terms of being able to pick up other items, and then even if it's coordinated with a drop off too, but also balance public safety, balance, most importantly, the Board of Health recommendations for guidelines with social distancing and social gatherings. So you may know Monday we had the senior sign drop off, right? Which went very well. A huge collaborative effort that was outstanding. And that was, that allowed us to see how that might look to check in people, utilize the perimeter of the building to set up, if we move with the virtual piece, that you could actually pick up your gowns, you could pick up your stuff and do it in a systematic way where it would be spaced out over time. And that would allow the ability to, pick up the gear, but then also the big piece is being able to see if we can work on an option where we can get everybody to cross the stage, be able to video that, weave it into a footage, somehow be able to allow the parents to see, the family members see that happen on the other side and move off in a safe manner. So, we've been putting together our plan. We've shared it with the Board of Health. We've shared it with Public Safety and with Bill to see, if that all would be viable, because that certainly would have to be, vetted through to make sure it meets all the guidelines and social distancing and gathering and all that piece too, with safety in mind. So in fact, we're even ordering totes for the students so we could put their gowns, we could put everything into a tote to keep it safe, and also ordering masks for the students as well with a nice logo on it for the social distancing component as well. So, it would be a big piece to do, but we feel confident that, pushing this through, if this is the situation that we're in, we've worked on the organization because that's going to take some time. But again, the piece that would be challenging is to make sure you have enough time to bring students through to do all this. So the protocol that we would put together would be, obviously approved by the Board of Health and Public Safety, and certainly is one that I feel confident we could do, but it's still, that piece has to be worked through. So we've worked on that piece, and that's where we're at. I know we have more work to do as the committee this week. We're going to speak and meet again with our class officers early in the week. And certainly, we have other ideas of planning for other ideas for our seniors too. We had last year, if you remember, we created the scholarship ceremony, which we moved actually 2 years ago, we moved the scholarships outside of the graduation ceremony. We still want to recreate that, but we know that that piece will work on a virtual piece where we can have the scholarships discussed and then be able to show the award winners and be able to broadcast that too. We've talked about being able to put together parades. One would be with the students, and then one with teachers if the teachers want to do something well. But again, that'll work through in the public safety piece. That'll have to be vetted to see how we can do that and when. And I'm sure, once you move past the 18th, we'll see where we go with any guideline changes and things like that. And then obviously the Warwick Theater offered up the marquee, which is awesome. And our senior officers are going to work on being able to put messages on there, which I find outstanding. And then we worked on a way for the yearbook piece to be able to distribute to the students. There's a digital signing option. But I think the big piece of this is, if we move the virtual route, is to have a celebration at a later time, which the kids want. They want an opportunity to say goodbye to their friends and be able to gather together. But that has to be done at a time when it's safe to do so within guidelines. So the class they would put together a celebration. We would support that 100%. And whether that means using the field house, whether that involves music and food and being able to honor them, they sign the yearbooks physically and do different things like that. We're open to any of their suggestions, and they're going to work on that piece too, because we feel very strongly about giving that opportunity to be together. I think the one thing they miss the most is that saying goodbye to each other and saying goodbye to teachers, because that is the piece, as you get into the closure, moving on is very important. So that's where we're at. We have a lot more work to do, but I just wanted to give you an update where we are at this point.
Thank you, Dan. So just as a quick summary, right now, you and your group are working with the Public Health Department, with Andrew Petty, its director, with Public Safety. The hope at this point is that we will hold graduation on the original date, June 5th, 6 o'clock, Friday night. If we're able to pull this off, it'll be a virtual option where it'll be broadcast theoretically at that time. And then to underscore your commentary about and continuing to work with seniors on the possibility of doing something, some kind of celebration where we can all get together at some point down the road when it is safe to do so. And so that's where we're standing, where we stand right now. And I think it's fair to say, is it fair for me to say, Dan, that we will certainly provide another update to the school committee on May 21st?
Yeah, because I still have to work on things. And as you said, if things pivot and they change, we have to be able to be flexible to make happen the best that we can. So I'm still working on vetting that through with further communication with families too.
Thanks. And school committee members did receive quite a comprehensive document from Mr. Bauer explaining everything that he just verbally went through. Any questions for Dan on that?
Yeah, Jen's hand is raised, but I just want to say to Dan, thank you. This all sounds so great. You know, I'm not surprised that you figured out how to make this really special, and, you know, just keep up the good work. It's really exciting to hear how you guys are working together to pull this off. Jen, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, am I muted?
You're
I'm
good.
muted. Okay. I think Bill answered my question, but so this is basically the plan, is assuming you can work out the details. It's not, I just wasn't clear on the document whether it's something you're considering, or it looks like this is actually what the plan is, assuming you can, you know, kind of pull all the stuff together with around safety issues. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, great.
So
Awesome.
Can I just add something? Dan and I have talked about this a lot. And I have to tell you, having been a high school principal for 10 years, I really feel for the seniors. I feel for the staff. I always felt graduation was one of the 2 best days of the school year. It's a very meaningful exercise. And I'm very impressed with the planning that's gone on here. If it can be pulled off, I really think it's a great alternative. However, you know, amidst all this planning, let's say everything goes well and and we talked about this, and it's May 25th, and, you know, we're full speed ahead, and for some reason, I don't think any of us believe this is going to happen, but if on May 25th, we learn that, you know, on June 15th, we can have as large a gathering as we can, and we can bring people together. Our plan will be to stop, and likely we would delay, you know, graduation, and we do it the way that we would have traditionally. I don't think any of us think that's going to happen, but when Dan talked about being flexible, that's exactly what has been discussed. So,
yes,
you know, if by some miracle we can pivot, we're going to do that, because that's what our seniors and their families deserve.
Great, that's great to hear. Thank you both. Did anybody else have a question? All right, looks clear.
I don't
Go ahead.
have a question, but I just want to say, you know, thanks to Dan and Bill and everybody else. I'm sure you are working all the angles, and that's what I'm thinking. You know, if June 5th comes and maybe there's a window of opportunity a couple of weeks out, and maybe it is just a modified opportunity. But as Dan said, even if that opportunity is something that allows, since last year was the first time graduation was held outdoors, it's an opportunity for a lot of social distancing, and maybe it would present an opportunity for that crossing of the stage and social distancing, but maybe you can't have all the parents and all the families and friends there, but I'm sure you're working through all those options, and it's just great to hear, because after last year and my son being a senior and being out, you know, in the stadium and experiencing that day, I certainly have a great appreciation for it. And I know you do, Dan, as a principal, and as Bill said, having been a principal previously. So thanks for trying to make it happen. Fingers crossed.
Thanks.
I really like the idea of how you set out the way to do it virtually, but you also said, even if we do this virtually, we'll still come back, whether it's in 3 months or 6 months or 8 months, and acknowledge them and let them have that closure in person. And I think that's such a great piece to it. And just thank you to all the students and to you and the staff. But the students who are just, I'm so impressed with their strength to just keep carrying on through all of this.
Megan?
Yeah, not to take up too much time, but I do want to echo what everyone else has said. This is a less than ideal situation, especially for teachers and students and their families. And Dan, I want to thank you, but also, the students and the teachers. I think it really shows the exceptional people we have in our staff and our students and their resiliency to work through all the complex elements of this, because you're right, there are so many moving parts and so many uncertainties, and I just appreciate how everyone is coming together, and it just kind of reinvigorates my love for this community and for these schools. So I just thank everybody for all the work they're doing, and I know that we'll find a way to give our seniors the proper celebration that they deserve for their accomplishments. So thank you.
All right, I think that's it on that. Dan, do you have anything else that you wanted to say, or Bill?
Thank you very much. Sorry.
I just want to echo what Bill said about Dan Howells. He is not only an awesome representative to the school committee, but he is a talented young man in our school, and he's just an upstanding citizen. And I take great pride when I see his reports. He doesn't ask me for any information. He does the reports. He's loyal, and I'm so proud of him, and I'm glad that you recognized his work. And thank you. And thank you for your support too.
Thanks, Dan.
Absolutely. Thanks, Dan.
Thanks, Dan, and thanks for all your work. Really, it is very much appreciated. So next is reentry plan. Before I get to that, every now and then you may see my video stop on the screen. I just want to assure you I am still listening, but I may be taking a bite of a Pop-Tart every now and then. That's my dinner tonight.
Very nutritious, Bill.
Yeah. We'll allow for it, Bill.
Dan, did you give those Pop-Tarts to Bill?
Okay. So I'm going to share a screen. Okay, great. So a reentry plan. So I apologize to committee members. This is the first time you're seeing this. I want to just make a comment before we go through this. You know me, I'm a dinosaur. I've been around a long time. I've been in this job for a long time, for many years. I have to tell you, this particular task is proving to be one of the most difficult tasks I've taken on. It is, there's just so many unknowns out there right now. So I apologize. I'm struggling a little bit through this, but I'm going to, in the end, I've decided that the best way to approach this is we're going to put a group together, a group that's representative of these main components of what I have in this. It says rough draft. It really should say very rough draft. But anyway, my sense is we'll be working on this right through May and into June, trying to get some kind of semblance of a draft plan that is A, doable, and B, is makes the most sense for where we are at a particular point in time. I would say, if I get out my crystal ball, that this plan will be an evolving plan right as we go through the summer, because there's no doubt in my mind that things are going to be changing as we go through the next 3 to 4 months. So here's my take on a very rough draft. What I've tried to do is put this in an outline. Again, this is just a concept right now, and still to happen is to fill in all of the details. And I am sure that there are many things that are missing from this plan. And from this outline, and you know, it'll be evolving. But I tried to identify some major components, as I said, and then provide, you know, some examples of the various pieces that are related to that. As I went through this, and as I've been looking at this, I'm sure that pieces that are under each of the general topics, the ABC groups, the small I, small double I's, some of those pieces will appear in other sections of this outline as well. So again, just, you know, a very, very beginning. So, you know, the development of a reentry plan will, in all cases, really be defined and be related to federal, state, and local guidance from public health officials, public safety officials, et cetera. You know, we've heard this. Oh, my internet connection is, there we go. So again, you know, whether that guidance is related to social distancing, you know, group size, will COVID-19 testing be required? Will it even be available? You know, what kind of access, if that's the case? And then other, quote, spread avoidance guidance that may be new or, you know, the same old, and you see some of that further down in this outline. Budget implications, I don't know if that should be at the top of the list, number one, or not, but, you know, very simply right now, that represents the cost of the various components of a reentry plan that's put together. And, you know, looking at this, and as you review it in further detail as we go, you know, further into May, you know, many of the pieces of the major components, you know, have budget implications. So as we go through this, you'll, you know, that'll become very apparent. So health and safety is a major component, I think, of a reentry plan. You know, does that mean increased health monitoring? What does that look like? Will we be required by guidance, or as a district, you know, will we want to have temperature checks when students and staff enter the building, or visitors? Will we even allow visitors in the building? PPE, what will be the you know, the use of personal protective equipment? Will it just be certain staff, you know, the nursing staff? Will it, you know, will it be in some degree for everyone in terms of masks? Is there an implication for nurse staffing if we're going to do increased health monitoring, if we're going to put in place certain measures around health and safety that that might involve the expertise of nurses? You know, what does that mean for nurse staffing? So we would need to plan for that. That certainly would be a budget implication, as would PPE be. You know, around health and safety, increased regular building cleaning, you know, intensive cleaning, you know, cleaning of high-touch areas at multiple times of the day. What does that mean for, you know, custodial and maintenance staffing? You know, hand washing. What about attendance regulations? You know, what do we do around students who may have been infected themselves, or a family member? You know, how does you know, how does that come into play? And there's operational logistics. You know, will the guidance limit class size? You know, will it be safe to have 20 to 22 students in a classroom? Can we logistically, you know, distance students, social distancing within the classroom? If not, does that mean that we have to plan on, when we return to school, some kind of split sessions? You know, half the kids go in the morning, half the kids in the afternoon. What does that mean for if you know, we're reopening, you know, all of the parts of the state, parents who work? You know, what does that mean if we have to do split sessions? Is that, you know, is that feasible? You know, arrival dismissal protocols. Do we need to identify certain entry points that are only entry points? Certain points in the building that, you know, that's where you leave the building from. Do we have to develop one-way traffic flow inside the building, like we're seeing in grocery stores, for example, today? Again, increased building cleanliness. Food service. So under food service, a few more other kind of detailed pieces. What does that mean for meal prep? Will there be guidance around meal prep? Do we have to make some adjustments for food service workers to stay 6 feet apart? What does that look like? Where do students eat? If when we open school in September, we're limited to, you know, the number of students who can congregate at one time, you know, that means that might mean not large groups can't go into the cafeteria. So do students have to eat in their classrooms? You know, and what will that look like? How does this work? ID split sessions. Sorry, I don't know what that means. How does this work? Oh, so I know what that means. So for food service, for providing our lunches and breakfast, you know, how does that work if we have to do some kind of a split session program? And then transportation under logistics. You know, will there be limits on ridership? How many students can be in a bus? Cleaning of the interior of buses, intensive cleaning, regular cleaning. What about bus stop protocols around social distancing, et cetera? And then we get into, you know, these are important, but, you know, the main purpose of our existence, the academic piece. You know, do we need to do assessment testing when students return? Or is it done somehow, some other way, so there can be summer planning? You know, assessment testing to determine where students are at in terms of knowledge gaps or in terms of achievement gaps, you know, and how do we determine, you know, what kind of assessment test we want to do? Is it, you know, do we purchase some kind of assessment? Do we make our own? And then, of course, I think there'll be certainly some of our students will have the need for either remedial or supplemental programming. When does that occur? You know, are we going to be able to have summer school? You know, will the guidance, once we start reopening, you know, will that be allowed? How do we do that? We're already starting to think about that, and I can answer some questions if you have on that. But you know, once we return to school on the entry, will there be after school programming? Will there around remedial and supplemental? Will we do some work on Saturdays? National education. You know, the school closures could mean a possible increase in IEP services, certain budgetary impacts, along with many of the other things already mentioned. Could there be a possible increase in placements, compensatory services? So those are all things to be considered in including and addressing in a reentry plan. And then there are social, emotional, and mental health considerations. Will our students need an increased level of student supports? Does that mean additional counselors or mental health professionals? Certainly, you know, building a robust referral network that's necessary. You know, where are our kids going to be in terms of anxiety, you know, coming to school? And then staff training, not just around social, emotional, mental health considerations, but a lot of other considerations. And there's the whole extracurricular and athletics piece. So this seems overwhelming to me, but you know, we'll find a way to get through this. And so I wanted to offer this as really the kind of beginning of the exercise. And you know, I've been doing I have been doing research, and on this, there isn't a whole lot out there, but one good resource I did find is some information from the Association of American Pediatric Doctors. That's not the name of the association. I just had it in front of me, but that was a very good resource that I looked at, and I'll send that out to school committee members. I think it would be worthwhile to take a look at that. You know, we'll continue to look at that. So my next step is to think through and identify some key individuals, staff members, and perhaps some people outside that are not employees or staff members that could help us in these key areas. And we'll be looking to put something like that together over the course of the next 10 days. I think that as time goes by, through the month of May, there will be more guidance provided. There'll be more opportunities to learn what other districts are doing, and there will be agencies that will I'm sure, be coming out with, you know, a lot of information relative to these components. And I would say, you know, I think the Massachusetts Nurses Association has already started doing some work on that. So we'll tap into, you know, resources like that. So I've talked enough, sorry. Happy to engage in a discussion. You know, feel free to, we can do it in this format. We can do it with feedback, written back once you've had a chance to really, I'll send this out tonight, really look at this. But again, this is really a very rough draft and a first stab at it.
Thanks, Bill. Yeah, wow, that's, you know, I think we all knew that this was going to be a lot, but it's certainly laid out in front is overwhelming. I know I had mentioned to you the idea of looping that I had been kind of stumbling across. Did you have any chance to look into that one yet?
You know, I haven't yet. There is a leadership team meeting coming up on Tuesday, so that's going to be on the agenda.
Great.
We'll talk to staff about that. There are some positives to that. I think there are some challenges to that as well.
Yeah, I'm sure.
You know, so we have to look at ending, you know, how that could be implemented. So we'll talk more and gather information on that. And I'm sure there'll be other suggestions as well that'll come up.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think, you know, I think the situation with our buildings right now presents sort of another layer of complexity with all of this. I think Sarah Fox had her hand up first. So Sarah, go ahead.
Thank you, Bill, so much. I know you referred to this as a rough draft, but this is actually a really comprehensive list, and I'm really thankful and impressed for how detailed of a list you produced of the various concerns. The only one that I can think of that's not on this is that there will be families that even when we do re-enter the building that will not be able to re-enter when everybody else does, who have immune issues in their families, and how will we approach that? Will we group, you know, those children under one teacher per grade level and that teacher continues remote teaching, or how will we address that? Because I'm sure there's a number of families in our community that will be facing that. But this is a very comprehensive list. And I liked how you said you wanted to loop in possibly members of the community. We're very rich in volunteers in this community and also rich in a knowledge base. I know we have public health professionals, epidemiologists that live in town. And I'm happy to say we live in a town where people are quite often happy to chip in. So I think that we could add those people as resources. But thank you so much for your comprehensive list, Bill, even if it did give me a panic attack.
Jen, your hand is also up. Jen, I don't know if I'm frozen or Jen, go ahead.
One more thought I had, we're waiting for
Sorry,
Sonia
can you hear
to
me?
figure out her technology. Technology was the other piece that wasn't on here, I think.
Sarah, can you hear me now?
Oh, yes, thank you.
Yes, yes,
Thanks,
Jen.
Sarah.
Okay, Jen, I think you can go ahead now.
Can you now?
Yep.
Yes or no?
Yeah.
Sarah, can you hear me?
I can. I can't see you, but I can hear you.
Can you hear me? I guess no. Yes or no? You can hear me? Okay. Sorry, I've had internet. I think that I think we've got Bill's screen still up there, but I don't know.
Yeah, Bill, do you
Yes,
want to
no, maybe.
stop
Anyway.
sharing your screen? There we go.
Want to remove it?
So I've had internet going in and out all day today, so I
Happy to.
apologize. So I was on a conference call today with how's that? All right.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
I think so.
I don't know if you guys can hear me. Well, and if you can't hear me, text. I was on a conference call today with a group called Discovery Education, which is a digital learning organization, and they had 2 school superintendents on, one from Dallas and one from Miami-Dade County, and they had a lot of things to say about what's going on with COVID and remote learning, but they were talking about a lot of these issues, and it was clear to me in a couple of these larger districts, in some of the largest districts in the country, they've already got a plan talking about their summer session, starting their 2 summer sessions beginning at the end of May, running until the new school year starts in August, and creating hybrid plans for the start of the fall, where some students will be coming to school in the buildings, assuming they're open. Some students won't be coming at all, and some students will be doing a combination of the 2. So it seems like there's a lot of collaboration going on out there in this world. So I'm just curious, Bill, if there's any conversation going on among superintendents in some districts like Marblehead, either on the North Shore or throughout the state of Massachusetts, as you begin to try to put these plans together. Because I think there's a lot of good ideas out there, and we probably don't have to. Bill, I don't know if you heard all that or not.
I heard the part about what are other districts doing. There hasn't been a whole lot of discussion. I'm sure that's going to ramp up. And, you know, my hope is that there will be resources and, you know, we all won't have to be in a position where we're creating, our own individual plans. So that's something that I am paying attention to. There's just not been a lot of it. In terms of, what's happening in Dallas and Miami-Dade, an observation I'll make is that they're two of the, they're probably in the top 25 largest districts in the country. And they certainly have resources and capacity to put people on this and get it done, in short order. We do not. So to your point about collaboration, that's really important. But that's something that, we are looking at, and hopefully either the Superintendent's Association or DESE, or organizations working together will be helping school districts as we get further into the month, putting these kind of plans together. But, it's good that we're thinking about it now and moving forward, in the best way that we can.
Sarah, you've got your hand back up.
Yes, two other thoughts I had on this. I know I sound crazy, but I actually stay up at night thinking about how can my kids go back to school safely, because our family has an additional set of challenges. And when we talk about, the possibility of increasing our nursing staff, thinking out of the box a little bit, could we look at certified nursing assistants who certainly can take temperatures and things like that, but come at a much more a deeper financial savings than, hiring more RNs, things like that. And then the other thing was, if, when we start to look at placements for kids in the fall, if we did something where families who have multiple siblings, if they happen to line up in grade levels, then we're lessening people's contact with, say two families have a third, fourth, and kindergarten student. If we place all the students in the same, we're limiting the external contacts coming into that class to less like tentacles, if you will, of the outreach of cross-contamination. Just one step.
Okay, I've written that second piece down.
Anybody else? Megan, did you want to say something?
Yeah, Bill, thanks for putting this together. There's obviously a number of items to think through, quite a lot of, still uncertainty. So I appreciate, that this is a starting point. You obviously have a lot on your plate. Is this something that you plan to be leading, or would you someone else to kind of lead this task force?
I haven't got it through that far yet, Megan, to be honest with you. I'm not sure that,
okay.
Everyone else is as busy as we're all very busy. So we'll figure that out.
All right. Yeah.
But I will likely be the lead.
And then
on
my other
this.
question is,
That's what I'm
I
thinking
know
anyway.
John isn't on board yet. Okay. Okay. All right. That's good. And then in terms of, our superintendent-elect, I know he's not on board yet, but just thinking about, how kind of integrate into this plan, because, the plan, as you mentioned, will be evolving over the summer too. So I'm just curious on your thoughts about that.
I think that's a good point, and I think that
Am I jumping the gun?
he will need to be involved in that, and definitely have a discussion about that, because I think you should have some input into that, clearly. So,
Okay.
um,
All right.
so that's a very
Okay.
good point, and
And
I'll
then,
make sure that
sorry, go ahead.
I'll make sure that he is involved. Nope, all set.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and then you mentioned the little piece and that you know, thinking this through a little bit more. So if I'm premature on this, let me know. When you talk about summer school, is that something that you're kind of anticipating would be for kind of all students, something to try to be addressing for students, or more for kids where we have to, you know, who have some targeted opportunities there?
Yep. So that's a good question. Honestly, I was talking. Where we're at now is planning our regular extended year program for our students who require that, our special education students in particular, and you know, before school closure, we had posted our summer positions, which we do annually. So what's happening now is we're finalizing, you know, the students who would typically participate. We're finalizing the staff. Staff need to be notified of their appointment, and so we will be appointing them on a, you know, on a temporary basis in case, you know, we can't do an on-site, you know, program. And, you know, I'm not optimistic that we can do that. So, you know, Eric is working with his staff on, you know, how we would do that, you know, with that limitation. And we would need to adjust, you know, the responsibilities clearly of staff that we're hiring. We may not need as many staff, but we're going through that process so we at least have everything that we need in place should somehow, you know, we're able to get the kids into the building. There may be a delay in the start of that program, you know, if that's the case. But so we're still working on the details there. So in terms of students who are mentioned, you know, on the reentry plan, students who need, you know, remedial or supplemental, you know, assistance, I'm not sure, to be perfectly honest, that logistically, that's something that we could pull together for summer. There'd be, you know, that would require some sort of testing. So again, you know, we'll know better as we move, you know, later into the month and into early June. But my sense is that kind of additional support for students would likely be, you know, at the beginning of the school year and could perhaps continue throughout the entire school year, you know, depending on how that's set up. There's just still an awful lot of unknowns out there, as we all know.
Right. Fair enough. Thank you. Yep, absolutely. Thank you.
Bill, do you think that you'll have budget rough figures for us that are allocated towards these items before we vote on our budget in June, the beginning of June?
Hope so. You know, perhaps some rough numbers, maybe. You know, once we get further clarification and it becomes more user-friendly, for lack of a better term to use, that would be the goal, certainly. You know, or be a set aside. You know, we may come up with a ballpark figure, you know, that addresses, you know, either various needs or, you know, maybe some unknown needs, we do know that there is federal money coming. We should receive about $100,000, and those funds can be used for those purposes. And we'll have 27 months to use that funding. So that's a fairly significant amount of money. You know, but if we start having to add staff, then, you know, then the number, you know, the dollar amount, you know, increases significantly. So more to come on that.
Thanks, Bill. I don't have anybody else's hand raised, so if you want to move forward, I think we're ready for that.
Thank you. Great, thank you, Sarah. Just a note, so I'm going to give a brief Assistant Superintendent search update. The third item, Northeast Consortium, we need to table that. There was the information just wasn't available, and we may not need to. This was going to, Northeast Consortium is adding another member to the consortium, and it's Kentucky Regional. And the bylaws state that 10 of the members have to vote to accept the new member, because that will change that portion of the bylaw that identifies the members of the consortium. So I was unable to get the information I needed from Fran Rosenberg. I was unable to find it, frankly. So if the committee still needs to vote on that, we'll do that on May 21st. But I think you should vote anyway, even if they already have the requisite number of school committees that they need to vote. I just think it's as a member of that organization, I think it's important for the school committee to act on that. So that'll come back on May 21st.
Okay, thanks, Bill.
Okay, so the Assistant Superintendent search update. Now I'm pleased to report that the Search Advisory Committee has met now 4 times. We had 2 organizational meetings. We've conducted 2 sessions of interviews. There is another interview session happening tomorrow. It's a tremendous committee. Everybody has been hard at work and very focused on finding the best candidate to be our next assistant superintendent. And we will be meeting early next week to discuss all of the candidate interviews, and the committee will forward a recommendation to myself and Dr. Bucky, a pool of candidates to move to the next step in the process. So, you know, we had we received a total of 43 applications and had a strong pool to interview. So we're moving full speed ahead, and I still am fairly confident that we'll be able to bring, you know, a recommended candidate to the committee for your approval at the June 4th meeting. So at least, you know, at this point, I'm hopeful for that. So I want to thank the members of the Search Advisory Committee. They're doing a great job, and hopefully we'll have even more information for you on the 21st. And more information, I'm hoping that we can actually are able to do perhaps a community forum with the finalist candidates, do that virtually, and give the school committee an opportunity to interact with finalist candidates before you vote on a recommendation. So that's moving forward, and it's been pretty exciting.
Fantastic. Thanks, Bill. And thanks to everyone on that committee. I know so that's a lot of work. So we're excited for that.
Sarah, I just had one question.
Go ahead.
So, Bill, have you heard, these are uncharted times and uncharted waters and the hiring, and it's certainly unprecedented, I guess, where people are getting hired without interviews that take place in person. With social distancing, have you heard, is there anything going on where maybe interviews take place where there's appropriate social distancing, or for the final acceptance or something like that, where people could be together with less than 10 people in a room?
Yeah, I've heard of a couple of recent superintendent finalist interviews with school committees where social distance, it was just the school committee members. It was being recorded in both instances, and the candidate. And they followed social distancing protocols. I heard of a story yesterday with, again, it was a superintendent search, and the finalist candidate, they did all of their work virtually, and then when they were negotiating a contract, the school committee was on one side of a cafeteria, the finalist, the candidate was on the other side, and they were zooming back and forth with attorneys, and then they were doing hand signals across the way. I don't know, but
right.
You know, I think some of that you know depends on what's happening at the local level, and if we were to do that, that's something that we wanted to do that. That's something we would work with Andrew Petty and the Board of Health, you know, on making sure that that was acceptable. But again, you know, we'll see where this goes.
Right.
The virtual interviews have actually, it's actually gone well. And Matt Fox, you know, conducted his assistant principal search. Doing that, he did a parent forum, he did a teacher forum virtually. I was able to meet the candidate virtually, and it worked well. And so we've, you know, our candidate accepted our offer, a very highly qualified candidate. You know, we haven't finalized things, so more information will come to you hopefully at the next meeting. But that worked very well, you know, and one of the real important parts of the process, as we've talked about before, as you know, is the vetting process. And of course, that can all be done, you know, that's all done with personal calls, research, and all of that. So,
right.
I think we can be successful having to do that.
Okay.
I don't know what that means for down the road, but you know, we'll see.
Yeah. Can I just add something there? First of all, Bill, that's great news about the assistant principal at VET, so I'm really excited to hear about that. But David, I have to say, like, I was a little apprehensive about doing these interviews virtually, but I think they've gone really smoothly. And I think the candidates, you know, have been able to converse, and we get a good feel for the personality as well. So I think it's been a good process so far, and I've been you know, happily surprised at how smooth it's gone.
Well, I appreciate that feedback, and that's great to hear. And yeah, I'm sure with all the interviews and everybody that's on the screening committee, it's been a different process for sure, but we'll just have to see how it goes forward. And if it changes, maybe there'll be maybe we can meet the candidate, but maybe we won't be able to until you know, the conditions allow us to, but it's a good update. So thanks for that.
Thanks, Bill. Anything else underneath that?
No, we're all set there. Thanks.
All right, great. So that leads us into the schedule of bills. So everybody should have been able to view the invoices as well as the schedules. So can I get a motion to approve the schedule of bills totaling $393,020.62?
So moved. Megan.
So Megan moved.
Second.
Sarah second. Thank you. Any questions or comments on that schedule?
Well, I liked.
David, you're on mute.
Just one comment. I think it's with NRT and the transportation. It looks like they are actually giving us a little bit of a discount. They're calling it a COVID-19 discount. Understandably, we've talked about this before, that we need to support our vendors so that they will be there when we open back up. But it was good to see that. I think in one of the invoices, it was $18,000 and they had a $3,000 discount, and they might be making some assumptions related to the cost of fuel and things like that. So I don't know if Al can maybe comment on that.
Go ahead.
You mean Michelle?
Hi.
Oh, yes.
Yes, we have contacted all of our transportation vendors, primarily their special education vendors, and North Reading Transportation has agreed to bill us and every other community at 78%. This is a savings due to fuel and maintenance. They are keeping their staff on and paid, and they will also, they're concerned that they will not come back in the fall if they do not keep them retained. LBK is the second largest transportation company that we use, and they have agreed to bill us at 61%, which is the cost of their payroll. And all other costs they are absorbing. And there are 3 companies that are not billing us at all, which is a huge savings, which I'll talk about in the monthly report shortly. And there's one additional company that we have not heard from yet, but it's a smaller monthly charge. So it should not make much of a difference either way.
Great.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thanks. That's good to hear.
Any other questions on the schedule? Okay, so I will call for a roll call. Sarah Gold, yes. Jen Schaffner?
Yes.
Megan Taylor?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Sarah Fox?
Yes.
And David Harris?
Yes.
All right, so motion carries 5-0.
Yes.
Okay, so that brings us to the vote to award the high school tennis court construction contract. Bill, do you want to fill us in on that?
I'm going to let Michelle take this one.
Okay, Michelle, go ahead.
Sure. Absolutely. So as you know, or may know, the Boosters Group has agreed to repair and resurface our tennis courts, 5 courts located at Marblehead High School. They had an amazing fundraising campaign and have come up with over $100,000 for our tennis courts. So as soon as they reached their fundraising goal, we were able to put this project out to bid. and we put it out in March. Initially, we had a bid due date of the end of March. We postponed that due to our closure, but postponed it to early April. We realized we couldn't keep postponing it until we reopened. So on April 8th, we opened the bids. We received 4 bids ranging from $55,485 up through $100,850. So quite a range of prices for the same project. And at this point, we have done our due diligence in researching the low bidder and have found that they seem to be very responsible and responsive. And we would like to request that the school committee approve a contract to East Coast Seal Coating in the amount of $55,485. The company is ready to basically jump on the contract once we can award it. And I do want to also mention that I had discussions with Jason Silver as well as Andrew Petty regarding the project because of the COVID-19 situation, and I wanted to make sure we're all set to move forward with it. And Andrew had indicated as long as we maintain proper social distancing requirements, that we are okay to proceed anytime now. So as soon as we have a contract and we receive the checks from the Boosters Group, which is actually I'm scheduled to receive those on Tuesday, we are all set to sign and proceed with this project.
Very exciting. Thanks, Michelle. So I will ask for a motion.
Michelle, I just have a quick question.
I'm going to just ask for a motion first, Megan. Is that okay?
Okay. Yeah, fine. Sorry.
That's okay. Hold on, let me pull it up. Okay, so can I have a motion to award the Marblehead High School tennis court repair and resurfacing project to East Coast Seal Coating of Abington, Massachusetts, in the amount of $55,485, and to authorize the chair to sign the contract on behalf of the committee?
So moved.
Megan moved.
Second.
Second.
David second. Okay, go ahead, Megan.
Michelle, thanks for this. This is great news that we can still move ahead with this, even despite kind of the current situation. But can you remind me the timeline of this, or has it modified? What are we looking at?
The timeline should be most likely 4 to 6 weeks to completion. I don't have a definite. We actually gave them leeway of up to, I believe, 6 months to complete the project because we thought there was going to be a backlog. And we were getting really nervous, but come to find out these companies really have no work at this point. So that was a benefit to us in terms of the pricing and in terms of the availability. So literally they'll be able to start this project within the next week to 10 days after we sign the contract.
Okay. That's awesome. Great. Thank you.
Sarah Fox, you've got your hand raised.
Yes, my question, first of all, I want to thank the Boosters and Mossy Parkette. What they raise and how quickly they raise it is nothing short of amazing. And so much of what we do would not be possible otherwise. But my question is about the swing in the pricing. That's like that's 100% swing, which usually makes me question the scope. Who is vetting the scope of these bids to make sure that we're comparing apples to apples, and who's overseeing the project? I'm just concerned because that's such a massive swing in price.
It is. It was very concerning to us as soon as we opened it as well. We did receive a price initially back last fall when the project was just being in the initial stages and the fundraising was just getting going. We did receive a price of $90,000. So we expected it to come in between 80 and 90. But as I said, the companies aren't working right now, essentially. Well, East Coast Seal Coating definitely is not. We actually released the specifications. So we released how many coats need to be put on the court, what grade it needs to be. It's very specific as to what they need to provide to us. So there really is no wiggle room, shall we say, unless they want to give us more than what we specified. But the minimums that we specified are absolutely certain. And we have done our reference checks. Muffy was very concerned about the $55,000 price we've received, and she has also done some reference checks on her own. And she has talked with the company, and she's very, very confident in it as well at this point. And Todd Bloodgood will be overseeing the project for us.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No, I don't have any other questions. I'd just like to reiterate my thanks to the boosters. Time and time again, they step up to raise money. The tennis team is, there's a strong participation there. It's been a successful team in Marblehead. And quite honestly, I think, well, I guess I can say this. I think we're probably all embarrassed that if you saw the condition of those tennis courts at the high school, that they were able to get to this condition. And I know that we started this year with Jen Schaffner and a few others, and we're starting to look forward on how we continue to maintain, the school properties and our recreational fields. And so I think this is one thing that is just another example where we've received really outstanding support in a short amount of time to raise the money for the tennis teams. And quite honestly, these courts can be used by the public when it's not being used by the school tennis team. So thanks to everybody who's been involved for that. And I look forward to working with the school committee members and everybody else going forward on how we continue to maintain our facilities and what we might need to do so that we can keep them, up to par. And certainly it's nice to have the support of these boosters, but that we can, keep them in good shape and not need to let them get in such disrepair that we get into a situation like this. So thanks to everybody. It's really exciting. A lot of people involved, and it's great news to hear that we're going to be able to move forward with it.
Absolutely. Well said, David. All right. If anybody else doesn't have anything to say, I will take the vote. So Sarah Gold, yes. Megan Taylor?
Yes.
David Harris?
Yes.
Sarah Fox?
Yes.
Jen Schaffner? Jen, are you there to vote? I'm not sure if Jen is actually there, so I will
pass 4-0.
I will pass on her. So we'll count her as an abstention. Oh, hold on. Just got a text from her. She's trying to get back in with the phone. Just a second. Jen is on. Okay, I think we're gonna have to just unfortunately as an abstention, because she isn't popping up in the waiting room. Oh, Jen, are you back?
Let's see.
I can
She
hear
can
you.
always
All right.
message in or vote like
Can you
I
hear
did
me?
if you want.
Yes,
Can you hear me now on the video?
yes.
All right, so yes.
All right, great. So that motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. All right, Michelle, I think you probably are still up for the FY20 monthly report.
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Absolutely. I just have to
So
run
I
to the.
apologize.
I just am going to run to the restroom, so I'm just going to leave Megan in charge for a moment.
No problem. Great. I apologize, and if I am coming in and out, my internet's not great tonight either. I don't know what's going on all over the place. So today in the Dropbox, you received a monthly budget report, and along with a memo, and the third page of that memo detailed the budget's shortfall and surplus. As we identified at the last report on March 20th, I believe is the date that I put it together. We were looking at a surplus of just over $1,600. And that was with the identified salary accounts and the identified deficit accounts that we knew we were going to have at that time. Things have certainly changed quite significantly due to the closure and just due to other circumstances. And I want to give you an update where we are at this point. Not going to read through the memo, but as of April 30th, which was last Thursday, we had spent 74% of our operating budget, or $29,221,000. And then I will ask you to focus on the last page of my memo, which is the listing of the accounts that are in deficit and have a surplus. So I'll start with the out-of-district tuitions. This is the biggest swing that we've had since March. At the time back in March, we were estimating a deficit combined for tuitions and transportations of $400,000. At this point, we are only looking at an out-of-district tuition deficit of $213,000. That is actually a swing in just the tuition line of $170,000. So that is savings to us. Those are real dollars, and we do not think much else will change in terms of these figures for the rest of this year. So that deficit has decreased by $170,000 to our favor. Gas and electric utilities is the same deficit that it was previously in March of $72,688. That was the deficit that we incurred before we started charging our gas and electric bills to the energy reserve account at the town level. So we have tapped into that reserve, and the town will absorb all those bills for the remainder of this fiscal year. The telephone line is still looking to be in deficit, roughly about $16,000. We're currently about $6,000 in deficit, and do expect that once we pay the last few months of the year, it will be roughly in the $15,000, $16,000 range. The next line, TSA 403B benefit. This is the tax sheltered annuity benefit that we offer to our Unit A union members. We expect this account to be in deficit by $15,000. That figure should actually be solidified in the next couple of weeks. But that budget item has been corrected in the next fiscal year's budget as well. Food service operations, this is a new one that is showing up on our radar as of this financial report. This is due to the ongoing payment of salaries and benefits to our food service workers. As you know, we are paying all of our regular permanent workers, not just food service, but food service no longer has a revenue source for the sale of meals. So the only revenue we are receiving at this point for that fund is the state and federal reimbursement for the free meals that we are offering to students at this time. And we are offering 2 meals a day, breakfast and lunch, Monday through Friday, to any student in need. But the salary and benefit cost to keep those food service workers completely employed through the end of the school year is going to cost us about an additional $125,000. Another new line that we are tracking right now is COVID-19 costs. These are for additional cleaning supplies, disinfectant supplies, and masks and thermometers. So far, we have spent $8,813. Without a funding source, these costs can actually be submitted to MEMA and FEMA for reimbursement at a later date, but right now we are carrying that deficit. So overall, our projected shortfall at this point in the year, we are expecting the shortfall of $450,501. Say actually, last month at this time, we were looking at a projected deficit of $523,688. So even though we have these additional costs due to the closure that we are absorbing, our deficit, changed to our favor at this point. So the surpluses that are going to offset these deficits, some of them are new, some of them are recurring from the last monthly report. First one is special ed transportation. We are currently looking at a surplus of $103,000. This is actually due to the savings in the reduced charges for the monthly bills, as well as the vendors that are not charging us for that. So initially we were looking at a deficit of $17,000. So we've had a swing of $120,000 in that line, and we expect that we will save roughly $103,000. Water utilities, we are still looking and still have the deficit. Still have the surplus of $12,512. This was the additional amount that we had in the account before we actually started using the water reserve. So we are currently using the water reserve, and that surplus will remain in place throughout the end of the year. Substitute costs. This is another new line due to the closure. We currently have a surplus of $45,770. We were anticipating that this account would go into deficit if we were to remain open. Due to the closure, we are not needing to utilize our day-to-day subs. So we have a savings in that account that will not change throughout the rest of the year. Home hospital tutoring salaries, we have a surplus of $10,000 roughly, and that will remain in place. This was initially identified at the last monthly update. Lane changes, this is also in place from last month. The total is $57,283. This is for column movement on the pay scale for our teachers, and we are not using those funds this year for that purpose. It's the remainder left over after they had made all their changes. Coaching salaries, the same thing. We had that identified last month. It's $170,224. Some of this may end up being used depending on what we do in terms of the spring coaching salaries. But at this time, that is my best guess estimate of what we will have for surplus. Unemployment, this line has actually, or my estimate has changed since last monthly update. We do have a surplus in this account of roughly, I want to say 35,000 at this point. I'm seeing a lot of activity coming through in terms of our day-to-day subs and other employees that are no longer employees of ours, but if they had been employed with us for the past 12 months, we will be picking up portion of their claims. So I'm just seeing an uptick in the activity. We do not have any actual claims that we are paying just yet, but I'm seeing a lot of notices come through for potential claims. So I estimate that we will use some of that surplus, but I do estimate we will end with a surplus of roughly $12,000. And then the rest of the lines, the business manager's salaries, the assistant superintendent's salaries, and the other salaries were identified last month. And some of those are due to the interim positions. The first two, the business manager and the assistant superintendent. The central registrar and the HR assistant were hired in February, so they were also due to late hiring savings. And then tech director salary is also due to reorganization at central office because we did not fill the director of operations position. So the total savings identified throughout the payroll accounts and these other additional closure related savings total $653,175. So the overall surplus right now we're looking at is $202,674. And that is the amount that was just about $1,600 last month. So we certainly have come a long way since the $1,600. And we're looking to be in pretty good shape at this time. And I do just want to add that these figures do not include any supply or material line that we will also have a surplus in. We're starting to go through all our purchase orders to see what we can liquidate, see what we are no longer going to need. We obviously aren't going to need any large copy paper purchases, certain supplies for in-classroom activities. So we do expect some savings there as well.
Thank you, Michelle. Sarah, can you hear me first of all?
Yep, we can hear you.
Thank you. And is the chart that Michelle was talking through, is that up on the screen?
It is still up on the screen.
Terrific. So earlier today at the budget liaisons meeting, I made the point that I'd like to repeat now. First, I want to thank Michelle for all the work on this. You know, this is a very, very transparent report. I hope you're pleased with the way that it's been presented and the detail with which these monthly reports have come your way. The one piece, while the $202,000 surplus is terrific in terms of our financial health, and this clearly to me indicates that we'll finish FY20 in a very good position. But just in terms of a small nuance, and I'm bringing this to your attention because I think it's important to note that the way that the budget has been tracked, the monitoring of the budget for this year, I think the point I want to make is really underscores this. So in March, when you received the last monthly report, Michelle went through a similar process, had similar information. The surplus we were projecting at that time was approximately $1,680. But we also at that time had a conversation where we let you know that the day before that meeting, I think it was Michelle, Eric, and I met, and we had gone back through our special education obligations, and we felt at the time that we were confident there'd be another $50,000 to $60,000 in special education savings. And so anecdotally at that time, we were suggesting that the surplus would be in the $50,000 to $60,000 range. So fast forward to this monthly report, you would note that if you note under the budget shortfall categories, where we have our food service operations of $125,000 and COVID-19 costs. If we were not in this situation and the school year had progressed as it had been up until March 13th, our food service operations would have continued. We would have collected the breakfast and lunch and the federal reimbursement revenue. So we wouldn't be showing a shortfall under food service operations of $125,000. We also wouldn't be showing that $8,800 for COVID-19 costs. So in reality, under that scenario, the projected shortfall at this point in the year would have been would be $317,000. On the flip side, when we look at the surplus, so we wouldn't have had the savings of $103,000 in special ed transportation. We would have been utilizing that. And where am I? And we would have been paying our coaches. So that $273,000 of surplus wouldn't be there. But what that translates to is there would be a surplus of around $380,000 once we back out from the 653, the 103,000 for transportation and the 170,000 for coaching salaries. And the shortfall, as I indicated, would be 317. So we would still be in that range of $50,000 to $60,000. Actually, we would have been a little above that at $63,000. So the point I'm trying to make is that the process that Michelle is utilizing, the protocols for monitoring and reporting out, by highlighting what I just did, I think it illustrates that the practice is solid and that our tracking certainly that we are tracking from month to month certainly suggests that it's a reliable process. So again, I just want to thank Michelle for her efforts and all her work in that regard. So that is positive news, and I'm glad we were able to report it a second time tonight.
Absolutely. Thanks, Bill, and thanks, Michelle. I've got a couple of members with hands raised. So Jen, I think you had your hand raised first. Go ahead.
Sarah, did you call on? I don't know who you called on.
Yeah, Jen, go ahead.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, good. I'm sorry. I've had crazy internet today. So Michelle, I just had a quick question for you, and Bill maybe clarified it, and maybe I misheard you, but I thought you had said that the budget shortfall currently is projected at $450,000, and last month it was projected at $523,000. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes.
I may have misheard you, so I just want. So last month it was 523. This month it's 450. Oh, sorry.
Yes, you are.
Okay. So last month it was 523. And I don't have the details in front of me. I was trying to find them online. I can't. This month it's 450 with the increase of food service operations of $125,000 shortfall. So we made it up somewhere else. Yes? That shortfall?
Most of the swing was in out of district tuitions that decreased by $170,000.
Okay, so we had a decrease of $170,000. Okay, all right, then I'm sorry, that explains it. And so we have had a decrease because of out of district tuitions in our shortfall and an increase in our surplus because of COVID related expenses that we are not incurring. So that's where our surplus of 202,000 came from, in a jump up from 1,600 in 1 month.
Correct. And also we no longer have the deficit in special ed transportation. We were anticipating a $17,000 deficit. In substitutes, we were anticipating a $20,000 deficit. So yeah.
Right, and that's because of COVID. So we have this surplus in large part due to COVID expenses that we're not incurring and a significant drop in out-of-district tuition.
Correct.
But just to clarify.
But
Just to clarify.
Bill, I disagree with that, Jen, as far as how you're classifying that. Go ahead, Bill.
Well, I was just trying to understand, mostly just
no,
based
it's not because of COVID-19, but go ahead, Bill.
So what I was going to say is, no, COVID-19 has had an impact clearly on both the shortfall and the surplus.
Yeah.
However,
Yeah.
the full 202,000 surplus is not all related to COVID-19. I would suggest, in actuality, the analysis suggests to me that approximately 130,000 of the surplus is COVID-19 related.
I agree.
You know what, Bill, I missed a bunch of that. It might have just been me.
Okay.
Right.
Yep. Let me try it again. So I agree that the swings in the budget shortfall number and the projected surplus numbers are in large part related to school closure. However, not the entire $202,000 surplus is not related to school closure, but rather approximately 130 to 135,000 of it is. Without school closure, my analysis, the analysis suggests that we would have a surplus of about $63,000. Does that
Great,
clarify
thank you.
it?
Yep, that's
Thanks.
perfect. Thank you.
Sarah, did you have your hand raised as well?
Yes, no, I just wanted to thank the central admin a lot, because as we've known all along since the fall, we've really been able to balance our budget in large part. I mean, if you take the COVID piece out, by not filling those central admin roles, there was tremendous savings through that. And that's been able to become possible largely in part from everyone there working as a team and wearing so many different hats. And I just wanted to thank them for that, because if everyone wasn't willing to be such a team player, I don't think we would have had the success we had this year. And I think it's in large part to them all working so wonderfully together.
Thank you.
Sarah, can I jump in?
Sure.
You know, I agree with Sarah Fox, absolutely. Michelle, this is brilliant. Not just for the bottom line number, but you've been here 6 months maybe, and the amount of work that you've done in that short period of time is amazing. So I really want to thank you for that. The work you've done, and then the clarity of the information that you provide. So a huge kudos to you. Thank you very much to you and your team, and Bill, also to you and John Murray. I'm not sure if he's still on the call, but I know you guys did a tremendous amount of work over the summer and the fall too. So thank you for your work and your continued fiscal management.
Thank you. We have a great team. We really do.
I agree.
And we are incredibly fortunate to have you.
Yes, we are. David, you raised your hand.
Well, Megan stole my thunder, but I think everybody understands the work that was done leading up to Michelle coming in. As we anticipated her arrival in November, and Michelle has stepped in and seamlessly just, jumped into the budget, worked with Bill, worked with John, worked with the liaisons to develop this not only for FY20, but FY21 going forward. And additionally, Michelle is now playing a key role on the building committee, and it's a $54 million project, and she's playing a key role there and is keeping another good set of eyes on everything that's going on with the building committee. So, thanks, Bill, thanks, John, and thanks, Michelle, for everybody who have worked to provide the clarity and the transparency with these budget numbers that I've never seen since I've been on the building committee or the school committee. So thank you very much.
Thank you, David.
All right. If there are no more questions or comments about that, Bill, I'll have you stop sharing your screen, and then we can move forward to the status of the pre-K and kindergarten tuition payments. Thanks.
Thank you, Sarah. So this is an item that I wanted to put on the school committee meeting agenda and have the school committee take action on because over the last month or so, we have been receiving inquiries about the payment of pre-K and K tuitions, and we have continued billing. You know, our April bills went out approximately April 10th. The May bills went out this week. And there's been feedback that we're aware of. We know that there are some families that are experiencing, you know, economic hardship because of what's happening. And we want to be really sensitive to that. I believe there are some families out there who feel that now that we've gone to remote learning, that perhaps there are some questions about the value added of paying tuition for full day K. And then there are families that are continuing to pay their tuition. So in my memo, and I don't want to go through the whole thing, I wanted to make sure that I outlined and provided some information relative to pre-K and full day K tuition in order to run pre-K programming for both students who where we provide special services to, and to students who don't. We do have to charge tuition for students who we don't provide the special services to, and that's a really important funding source for the district to meet the goal of having a fully integrated pre-K program, which is really important to the growth and development of all of the children who attend program. And as we look forward to a new building opening where there are pre-K to additional pre-K classrooms scheduled for that, we're really looking forward to the opportunity to be able to expand this program, which I think has huge benefits to our school community. However, we do have staff who are employed, who work in these programs, that the tuition that we collect helps to fund the salaries of these employees. And so it is important that as we move forward through these last couple of months, that we endeavor to continue a process where tuition revenue is continuing to come into the district. As you know, we embarked on a pledge at the beginning of school closure that we felt it was important to continue to pay our staff, and that was a commitment that was made on both the school side and the town side, and we've continued to be able to do that, and we will continue to do that through the end of the school year. But we do rely on these tuition payments. So in order to be able to address concerns that have been raised by some families, and some families who have already paid for the full year who are requesting some kind of reimbursement, I felt it was not appropriate that any kind of decision on whether to accept the tuition or not accept the tuition, other than for economic reasons, which the school committee understands and knows that we have a process in place to help families and assist families with that. I felt it was important for the school committee to take action on a recommendation that I've made. And given all due consideration to all of the various factors that are taking place during these challenging times, and to avoid perhaps causing discomfort with some families who really are experiencing economic hardship. I feel it's appropriate at this time to, in looking at this, to continue to invoice for the services, because we believe we are providing the services, but that we give relief to those who need it, and ask for those who are in a position to and believe that it's appropriate to keep paying to be able to do so. So my recommendation to the school committee would be to instruct the business office to continue sending monthly pre-K and full-day K tuition invoices. So that would be for the months of May and June. As I said, June may have already gone out. But that the payment of said invoices will be optional, and families will make that decision whether they'll pay the invoice or not. We've received many April payments already, but mostly would impact May and June.
Okay, thanks, Bill. So before we discuss, can I get a motion to instruct the business office to continue sending monthly pre-K and full-day kindergarten tuition invoices, and that the payment of said invoices be optional for April, May, and June?
So moved.
Jen moved.
I'll second.
Megan second. Thank you. All right. Any discussion on that?
I just want to note that I'm going to abstain because I am a kindergarten parent, so I don't think it's right for me to vote on.
Okay, thanks, Sarah.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Bill, do you have a feel for what the financial impact will be based on feedback you've had to date?
Right. So Michelle and I have talked about this based on where we are. We think the worst case scenario is that we'd see an impact of it could be $40,000. But given where we are with the surplus, we would be able to handle that. And that's I think that's the worst case scenario.
Okay. And from the feedback you've had, is that predominantly full-day kindergarten parents, or is it just across the board between both programs?
I think it's been much more full-day K.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Okay, so I'll call for a vote. Sarah Gold, yes. Jen Schaffner?
Yes.
Megan Taylor?
Yes.
David Harris?
Yes.
And Sarah Fox is abstaining. So the motion carries 4-0 with 1 abstention. All right, so that brings us to the FY21 clerk compensation plan.
Sarah, so this is an annual agenda item that comes before the school committee, and I've been able to go back 3 years, and it's always come to the school committee the first meeting in May. Our clerks, and in particular, and I can bring this up, I think. See if that's it. Yeah. You all can see that?
Yes.
Okay.
No. Let me try it again. Okay. So the clerk's compensation plan covers, and this is on page 2 of the document you received, covers the positions that you see up on the screen. They're categorized into groups, group 1, group 2, group 3, and the salary schedule is based on a 5-step system, and each group receives a, depending on the group, that determines their weekly compensation. There are some positions that we do not, we no longer have, we don't fund. We do not have a high school athletic secretary or clerk at this point. We do not have a district office receptionist, although, as you know, our central registrar, which was an 80% position, that individual is taking on receptionist duties at the central office. Let's see. So, and we don't have an administrative assistant to the Director of Technology and Operations and the Assistant Superintendent. But this plan covers approximately 25 employees. And again, it's an annual piece. I'm sorry, the point I wanted to make is that all of these positions are positions that are not covered or are not included in any of the other bargaining units that exist within the district. So on an annual basis, the school committee approves this plan. The only change to this plan, I believe in the last number of years, would be the salary piece found on step 2 on page 2, and it reflects a 2.5% increase in salary, and that is in line with all of the other bargaining units, and that has been the procedure for this group of employees, that the salary adjustment has been consistent with the salary increases negotiated by all of the school department bargaining units. So this is presented tonight for your approval.
All right, thanks, Bill. Can I get you to stop sharing your screen so that I can just read the motion that you?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Actually, can I just add one thing? I don't know. Bill, the actual document has the current year's figures, and the updated figures are on the last page of that document in the chart. So if they vote the figures in the document.
No, I updated those figures. Hold on a second. Hold on.
Yeah, it looks like it's updated.
It is updated because that group
Yes.
3, step 5, the current weekly compensation is $1,011.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah. There was a copy out, Michelle, you're right. There was a copy out there that I think I sent you that this chart hadn't been updated yet.
Okay. I thought I saw the one today and I didn't think it was updated. This one is correct. Thank you. Sorry about that.
Thanks.
Okay, so can I get a motion to approve the FY21 clerk's compensation and benefit plan as proposed?
So moved.
Megan moved.
Second.
Second.
David, second. All right. Any questions on that?
Jen.
All right, I'm not seeing anybody with any questions, so I will move for a vote. Sarah Gold, yes. Megan Taylor?
Yes.
Sarah Fox?
Yes.
David Harris?
Yes.
Jen Schaffner?
Yes.
All right, the motion carries 5-0. All right, so that brings us to the FY21 budget update.
Thank you, Sarah. Okay. So you all should have received a very brief memo and a copy of the latest budget adjustment tracking sheet. I assume you can all see this on your screen. So this is our latest version. I'll go through, if you have questions on this sheet, I'll, on how it works, I'll be happy to answer those, but we've shared this a number of times at previous meetings. So as you are aware, we designed a budget development process when we laid out the initial presentation to the school committee back in early February, that our intention, with the understanding that the budget development process and getting from the initial draft budget to a final voted school committee budget that goes on to town meeting is really an evolving and an iterative process. And that in order to have an effective process and end up with a budget that most clearly and accurately reflects, for all intents and purposes, the educational plan for the following school year, for the next school year. It's wise, as we learn new information while going through the process, that adjustments be made. And so we followed that protocol. I hope that it is a process that you have, that you are satisfied with. And frankly, I hope it's a process that as you move forward into future years, that you continue. But that'll be, your choice and maybe somebody else's choice. So this has been updated as of May 5th, two days ago. When you look at the various adjustments that have been made, with the exception of the utility budget adjustment that we made, and we all know the reason why that was done, all the other adjustments relate either to adjustments in special education costs or adjustments in staffing. And the special education adjustments, I think, are really very straightforward and understandable, because that's the one part of our budget that we know, no matter what time of the year it is, whether, we're monitoring the approved budget or in this case, whether we're consistently reviewing, our proposed budget, special education expenses are always changing. And so we have endeavored to be as up to date and as accurate as we can. So again, with the exception of the utility adjustments, all of the other adjustments have been relative to staff and special education. In terms of the staff adjustments, none of these adjustments reflect, the laying off of any staff, the elimination of any staff, with the exception of one position, and that is the March 5th note of reduce the vet special ed salary line. So that actually is in relation to our academic skills program at the middle school. We have 2 classrooms for that specialized program. And based on the numbers, based on the in-migration from the 6th grade and the numbers leaving the 8th grade to go to the high school, our enrollment numbers for that program clearly suggest that we only need one teacher for that program. So we have reduced that position, and we also have a retirement in special education at that position. So it's not, necessarily impacting, any staff in terms of losing their job. And then the other pieces are all related to, we were carrying a teacher salary, a kindergarten teacher salary who had been out on leave last year. And we learned in early March that she was not returning. So there's a savings there. And then, we found the piece around the ELL director salary line that was budgeted, and we don't need that because we've combined positions. And then we did have, remember we first reported that we were aware of 5 retirements, and but we only budgeted 4 at the time that the draft was presented, because one of the teachers had not quite made up their mind, was waiting till later in the year. And so that teacher in the last couple of weeks did decide to retire. I don't understand why, but they did make that choice. And so we've made that adjustment. So as we have gone through this process, we always we had our eye on, a target number, which was related to past practice around budgeting in town. And the practice had been that the town was willing to support a budget that was a combination of the previous year's budget and the cost of bargaining obligations for step increases for all of our bargaining units, and if there are step increases for non-union individuals like the one you just approved, the clerk's benefit plan, as well as the cost of a COLA. And that is annually accounted for all employees. So those 2 factors, on the town side, they were targeting $41,084. It didn't necessarily mean that's where the school committee was going to vote a final budget, but given that the adjustments that have been made have not impacted the original budget plan, the priorities and the needs that have been outlined, it's, in my opinion, it is the right thing to do to make those adjustments. So where we currently stand now, we currently stand with these adjustments at a budget proposal of $898,356, which is actually $186,000 below what has been that traditional target. So I wanted to make sure that everybody was clear on that. In our budget liaison meeting earlier today, that was alluded to by Mr. Berman earlier. Jason Silva, who was present, provided an overview of adjustments or changes in revenue and some expenses on the town side that the revenue piece direct relation to the current economic conditions and forecast for both local revenue and what state aid might be in FY21. And the news is not good news. Those combined projected revenues that go towards our annual budgets, both the town and school side, he's estimating at somewhere between 1.1 and 1.6 million dollars. So from the town side perspective, I believe it's fair to say that that outlook will change. Certainly, they're thinking about what the town can afford. Let me see. So just the way that the process, where they're at right now in coming up with that number is, as Jason explained, they went back about 12 years, 11 years to the last time there was a recession, and that was the 2008, 2009, 2010 era, where which was the last recession, and not just in Marblehead, but across the state, local and state budgets were impacted dramatically. So what they did was they went back to that period of time and looked at what were the results. What was the reduction in state aid, and what was the reduction in local revenue. So so they went through some numbers there. So that was really just a general overview. There was no direction relative to that necessarily. I would say that, the budget subcommittee, it was helpful for the budget subcommittee to hear what the information from the town side. The budget subcommittee needs to meet again as a follow-up to have a more in-depth discussion of what that means, and be ready to come back to the school committee with, I think some more direction, perhaps. One of the circumstances currently is that at the state level, they've actually gone back to the starting point for creating the FY21 budget on the state level, to the point, and we talked about this at the last meeting, they held new revenue forecast hearings. I haven't heard any results, any further information from that hearing. The state is, I think, being very, very cautious and judicious in terms of reviewing numbers. And I think it won't be till the end of May when we get a sense of where the state is at in terms of state aid, any projections there. So given the timing, given that the timing in Marblehead has been delayed, and I'm sorry, I'm talking a lot, but I'll wrap this up. Given that the budget process has been delayed, you all know that town meeting was moved to June 29th. The Finance Committee has communicated with us that they have penciled in Monday, June 15th as the date that the schools will meet with the Finance Committee to review our budget, and they will take a vote on our budget that night. And so in terms of the school committee, my sense is that we have some time through the end of May. I think that we should plan on scheduling a budget hearing either the first or second week in June. And so we've met that statutory obligation. And as we move forward over the next 3-4 weeks, get better information, And I think we will have a much more in-depth discussion on May 21st relative to what you all are thinking for the FY21 budget, what we're thinking internally about the budget, and kind of what do we do? Do we hold pat? Do we come up with a second plan? Depending on where we are at. So these are things that I know internally we've started to think about. So I'll leave it at that. Sarah and Megan, did I leave anything out? Please feel free to add to anything I've said.
I think you've hit the major points, Bill. The only thing, I think what you and Michelle have put together is, a really good view of where we're at now. Jason is very detailed in his approach and very thoughtful in how he, goes about his planning, but he's also realistic. So you're right, it was good to hear kind of where they're at with their impact analysis. So there's certainly, more to do and more to come, but I think, we're in a good place from our numbers, and obviously we're working collaboratively on the town side.
And we had also, I think it's important to point out, we had touched on this a little bit earlier, where we all looked at the very comprehensive outline that Bill provided for our reentry plan. We don't have financial drivers for that yet, but there most certainly will be financial drivers. So we just have to make sure that we're incorporating them, if possible, in our budget. Because as we all know, once it's voted, it's voted. So if we need to find money, it will have to come from somewhere. And also, where Jason talked about that, it was very sobering to hear, associated numbers with the shortfall for next year, especially when you think about the schools drive about 60% of the town budget. So 60% of 1.1 to 1.6 is a large number. He did not imply at all that we needed to absorb that 60%, but we just need to be mindful, I think, moving forward.
Thank you, Sarah and Megan.
Jen, you had your hand raised.
Sorry, yeah, I just had a couple questions for either Bill or Megan and Sarah. So the first thing is the timeline, which Bill, basically you gave us the timeline. We're looking at end date of June 15th. Possible, that's right?
Yes.
And then we would perhaps do our budget hearing either after that or around there.
I think before that, we should.
Okay. So this number, the 40,898,356, do we think that's going to change? Do we know, or do we think that's? Oh.
My sense is that what I anticipate, we will hear from the town that they don't believe that is a number that can be supported.
Okay.
We might hear.
So, okay. So then I guess the subcommittee, or you and the subcommittee will have had those conversations. That'll transpire over the next few weeks prior to the budget hearing.
Oh, definitely.
Okay.
I anticipate there'll be much conversation, and we've already, we've already determined there'll be another liaisons meeting in 2 weeks. So,
okay.
Yeah,
great.
That'll be ongoing, Jen.
Okay. So from what I see on this chronology, the adjustments that were made were all non-classroom facing, basically. There's no programming changes at this point. This was all savings we were able to find without it affecting students. But we don't know what that could mean going forward.
Right.
Okay. So two final questions. So we have, going back to our earlier part of this meeting, a couple hours ago, we have a surplus of a little over $200,000. And we have a gap of $186,000 we're looking at. The $202,000 surplus.
There's no gap.
Well, I don't mean gap, Dave. I guess between what our initial presentation was and where we are now, which actually doesn't necessarily matter. I guess my question is, where does the 202,000 surplus for assuming that's what we end the year with, we still have time before we end the year. Does that go back? What happens to that?
So that's a good question. It did come up in the liaison meeting. In Ben Berman's remarks and public comment, he indicated that, in his opinion, that would go back to the town.
Okay.
Help with the budget situation. But at the meeting, my recollection is that we decided that we needed to continue to talk about that. So Sarah actually made a point, well, is that $202,000 an opportunity to perhaps prepay some special education tuitions, which we're allowed to do for the summer months? Pre-purchase some, supplies and materials, which in effect would cause that number of 40,898 to be reduced even further by whatever amount is used for those purposes.
Yeah.
So I think that will be, I think we still need to have further discussions about that. That was my understanding as to where it was left.
Okay, so that brings me to the next concern I had, which was the special ed, right? So we've had a tuition reduction, out of district tuition reduction recently, but we all know, how fluid that can be. So I'm throwing it out there, it just concerns me what we could possibly be looking at next year, with anything expected or unexpected. Although we do still have the special ed reserve, and we haven't touched that this year. So,
Good point.
Okay.
Very
My
good
last question to you, and I don't know if you know this, Bill, the CARES Act recently passed by the Congress did increase or did make allocations to local school districts with a formula based on our Title I allocation. The Title I is a direct grant, but do we know if the CARES Act version of that will also be a direct grant, or is that going to go to the town? So in other words, is that perhaps another revenue source that we hadn't accounted for? Or will that go like a typical Chapter 70 and that'll go to the town?
So thank you for that question. That question is directly related to comments I made when we were talking about the reentry plan, and I indicated that there would be about $100,000 of federal money that we'd be receiving that we could use for remedial supplemental support for those kind of services. So that's the money you just talked about. That's what I was talking about. So under the CARES Act, which was the first bill that Congress passed, $15 billion was allocated for to go back to local education agencies. Massachusetts will receive approximately $215 million of that money. And that we've been told by DESE that money will be distributed to locals using the Title I funding formula. And so for us, that means somewhere between $100,000 and $125,000, because that's what we receive for Title I. So that's what we're anticipating. And those funds can be used over a period of the next 27 months. And when going back to Sarah's comment about, the budget, we haven't identified any resources for what we may need for reentry next year. My belief is that that $100,000 or so will be available for those kinds of things.
Okay, thank you.
Not suggesting that that will be enough money,
No.
but that's what we'll determine over the next month or so.
Awesome, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, Bill, thank you. Any other comments on that, anybody? All right, Bill, can I just get you to stop sharing your screen?
I will.
Thanks.
I will, sorry.
No worries. All right, so that then should move us on to the school committee communications. I wanted to add the school name discussion back onto the list just because that was sort of, we were gonna start to move forward on that, and then everything happened with the closures, and so it's sort of just been tabled and sitting out there. I just wanted to get a gauge for where the other members were at in feelings about, should we just pick this back up at the beginning of the next school year, or should we continue forward trying to do it in an online Zoom fashion? Megan?
Yeah. I think we're all anxious maybe anxious is the wrong word, excited to get the new school named, and I appreciate that. I just think right now there's so much phones and just trying to survive on a day-to-day basis. I don't know, I think this deserves some focus from the community, and I just am concerned that maybe people can't focus on it right now because they're just focused on kind of getting through the day-to-day life. And I just think it's a big decision for the community, for the school committee. I mean, this building's going to be here for 50 plus years, and I think it just deserves some quality attention that I don't know as a community we can provide right now.
Thanks, Megan.
That's my 2 cents.
Anybody else have any thoughts on it?
Yes, I think we've actually been handling everything very, very well. I mean, we planned $40-some odd million budgets and built $54 million schools via Zoom, and we're doing it well. So I don't necessarily think that there's a reason to continue to kick this can down the road. We kind of started talking about it in October or November, and here we are 6-7 months later, and we haven't made a tremendous amount of progress. So I would at some point like to move forward on this. I don't know. I mean, obviously not at 9:50 at night, but I would like to move forward on this. I think that it's long overdue.
Well, I'd just like to reiterate Megan's sentiments. I think we're focused on a lot of other things. It's going to be another 14 months before the schools open, and I think it's the last thing that we need to focus on. So, but when the time presents itself, if we can do it via Zoom, or if we want to have a community meeting, or we can get together and we have time to address it on our agenda, and it presents itself, let's, as Sarah says, let's try and move forward with pretty low on the totem pole right now.
Jen, do you have any thoughts on it?
Nope. We had a comment from one of the teachers saying that I think it would be so great for the community to have a name. I didn't know that, but I'm not reading this because of the second line. I agree with Sarah Fox. I didn't see that before I started reading. It would help provide some positive energy right now, and I'm sure people would love for you to move forward. That was from one of the teachers, Rachel Levitt.
Jen, did you have anything?
Yeah, I would agree.
Go ahead, David.
Well,
Nope.
no, I would agree with the positive energy, and I'll just make one comment. I mean, the next thing is coming up is the building project update, and most school projects, if not all school projects, have a groundbreaking ceremony, and we had started the process in the background, Cindy Schieffer and Emily, and working with Gilbane on how groundbreaking ceremonies are done. And, you know, it's an opportunity to really bring the community together. And when you see how other towns have done it, whether the students are there with shovels or the kids from the schools, or you have the band, and that's certainly a missed opportunity that right now we won't be able to do. And we've thought about it as a, you know, how can we do that to celebrate that? But I think I agree with Sarah. I think there's positive energy that can come from naming the school. And one of the other missed opportunities that we want to hopefully be able to do this summer or later this fall is to have a groundbreaking ceremony, but everybody knows it'll be 3 or 4 months removed from the true groundbreaking ceremony, but to really celebrate what we're doing over at the Bell School site to move it forward. So I agree. And if, you know, the opportunity presents itself where we can do that to bring the community together with all that's going on, it would be a good opportunity to work on that. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I think, Sarah, I think that we had done work with the community earlier this year. Sarah Fox and I had worked on getting community input, which we did, presented that to the committee. I think we had an opportunity at that time to probably have taken action, and we didn't. So that's fine if we want to, you know, punt this. That's fine. I agree. I don't think it's a top priority at this point necessarily. I hope that we don't lose sight of the fact that we did get community input, and it has been presented to the committee as to what that is, and that will be taken under consideration, I guess, for lack of a better word, when the time comes. And I also think, to your point, David, there's always also usually a building topping as well.
Yeah.
So that might be an opportunity versus the groundbreaking, because by the time we top this building, hopefully,
You're right.
you know, it might be in the middle of winter, but we'll be a little further away. This will be more in our rearview mirror, and that could also be an opportunity to share with the community.
Yeah, no doubt.
All right, so it kind of sounds like the general leaning is to try to move forward on this before the end of the school year. So I will work with Bill in looking at the reality of the next few meetings, and I will try to get it on to one of the meetings. I think we're at the point where our next step would be for members to bring, you know, kind of based on the community feedback that was obtained, that the school committee would bring their top choice individually. Each member would bring their top choice, present the background on why they feel strongly about that name, and then we would receive a little bit more community input and vote at the meeting after that. So Bill, hopefully I'm not frozen. Bill, you and I maybe can discuss when that can happen.
Yeah.
So, oh wait, I'm confused. So Sarah, what were you saying, we should move forward, or wait? I didn't.
No, it seems like the committee would like to move forward generally. You know, everybody kind of acknowledging it's not the top priority right now, but that, you know, we would kind of like to wrap it up. So I'll work with Bill offline to make sure that it can fit somewhere and that it can be given its due at a meeting in the future, or 2 meetings, I guess, in the future. But hopefully we can pull that off.
Sounds good to me.
Sounds good. All right. So that then brings us up to the school building project update.
So, school building project update. I think I can start with the most recent events first. On Monday, the OAC committee was invited to come to the site after construction had ended at 3 o'clock. And the superintendent was there, Michelle was there, Jason Silva was there. I was able to attend and Ralph Wallace was not, but it was just amazing. I mean, after being outside the fence, literally Zoom meetings for the last 2 months, you know, peering through the fence, a few drone videos from Jack Attridge, just to be able to be on the site and sort of see how it's all coming together, seeing how the blasting is moving forward. One of the things that jumped out to me that was just, we knew this going into the site selection, was how amazing the site selection was for the recreational space at the back of the school. When you see the old school is now removed and you can visualize where the new school will end and how much hard surface and soft surface there'll be. And just how it's all coming together. It's been a real challenge, I think, for everyone, from the OPM to the architect who's had to work remotely and work within COVID-19, to the CM and all of our contractors who have had to work with the state guidelines that are in place, hand washing stations, social distancing, and I think we're fortunate that we're not in a situation where the school is at the final stages and people are indoors working elbow to elbow, so to speak. Right now it's you know, it's groundwork and it's grub work and it's blasting, and they're able to do the work that they're doing. So it's I think it's really exciting that, because certainly we know that we wanted this school to open, you know, a year from now, and so far so good. Things can change as we move forward with the project, but I think Gilbane has been looking forward to potential areas where we could experience delays, and I think we're probably 3 or 4 months away from where we would get to, you know, part of the construction where we might need to consider that, but hopefully the situation will have improved by then. So I just want to give, you know, kudos to everybody. I mean, you know, Gilbane has really stepped up to keep the project on schedule. It's worth noting the blasting has, since all of the pre-inspections were done, there's been, I think this is the 3rd week of blasting. And today there were 2 blasts that took place. And so far so good. There's been, I would characterize it as 3 neighbors that I know of. 2 of which, one that I met with personally with the OPM on Monday, and one yesterday that I spoke with that is actually about 750 yards outside the radius. But once we touched base with him, it was just, you know, he just needed to have a little bit more information about what was going on the site. Additionally, it's really worth noting, it is a town project. And when you look at blasting as an example, we need to have you know, that's really the fire department's purview, and Captain Rice is on site for all of the blasting that takes place and the measuring and monitoring. We made a decision last week that they would stop traffic, for instance, from going down Jane Road because it's right outside the fence. And Chief Piccarello stepped up to provide a detail to just stop traffic when was needed. The water department has been working hand in hand with John Bartecki and Gilbane, because there's a major water line that goes across the property line from basically at the corner of Jane Road over to Dartmouth Road. And they've been actively engaged, and they were able to get the water lines need to go in first because they're the deepest. And so Amy's been really working with the town. Jason Silva helping with all of the permitting and everything that's going on. So it's just been a really good team effort. Everybody seems to be working together. And the next major milestone for the project is the 60% CDs that are being completed on, I think it's May 11th, but we do have some final bids that are for work that's coming in on the 14th. So that will be another key milestone for the project. And, so far things are looking good. I mean, Bill and Michelle, you can comment. You were there on Monday. You've been on the OAC meetings, but it seems to be moving forward, and it's been in light of everything that's going on. I think it's a really bright spot that we have for the town.
I would agree, David. Given the circumstances, I give a lot of credit to Gilbane in particular for keeping the project moving forward, and I think we're making very good progress. Excellent progress.
Fantastic. Jen, you got your hand raised?
Yeah. Sarah Fox, are you?
I'm on here. I had a few questions, but you can go first.
Oh, okay. You just popped up. That's right. Okay, great. So David, thanks for that update. You indicated that the construction drawings are going to be, the 60% drawings are due on May 11th, basically kind of right around the corner. So then what's the next phase after that? Does it go to what, 90% or 100%?
Well, I think before we move ahead, one of the key junctures with the 60% is the next estimate. So there'll be a construction estimate that comes both from left field and from the architect. And so, but the thing that's different about having Gilbane on board is when we get to that point, it's estimated that about, I think, 35 to 45% of the project will have been bought out. So in other words, the estimate, what remains, we know 45% of the costs, and what remains is 65% of the cost to be estimated out. So that's a key juncture. And so far, as we've gone through, whether it's been the dirt work or the steel, or we're getting ready to award some inspectional services, that everything remains in line. And it seems like there probably is an opportunity that we might be benefiting from the environment that we're in right now, where some of the bids where other contractors' funding is uncertain, but where our funding is given and it's already been approved, that some of the vendors are being very aggressive in approaching. So I think the first thing is to get that estimate finalized, and then you're right, the next step would be in mid to late June, would be looking at the projected work plan here. It's it's mid-June that we'd get the final 90% estimates in. That's correct. So yep.
So then, okay, so that's great. So you're saying, so right now, basically, because we've had some decent amount of site work. So at this point, you're saying we are so far, our site work budget is in line. We haven't gone over anything at this point.
It's fair to say our site work is in line. There's been a little bit of additional costs related to, I guess they're saying the rock is harder than they anticipated, but within the monies that were allocated for the site work, I think it was, that we should be able to cover those costs, and we could run over by about $15,000. And then there was a little bit of additional costs related to some of the topsoil and the loam that needs to be removed from the site. And there was a small portion of it that had some heavy metals in it, but it was still within the guidelines of the original budget, and that was all being worked out. So, so far so good. Another point of interest is, another thing, like Bill said, kudos to Gilbane as an example. It's hard to believe in today's day and age, but all of the asbestos-related materials were designated to go to Ohio as an example in the contract. And with COVID-19, the vendor that would have taken that product to Ohio would not have had anything to haul back from Ohio, and it would have increased the cost. So Gilbane shifted gears and was able to find a landfill in Vermont that would accept the material, that would keep us on schedule and not provide any additional cost. So, there are a lot of things that are constantly in play here, but so far so good.
So, okay, great. So, there's a lot of moving parts now that we're into it, and some things come in on budget, some things go over, some are under. So that, I'm assuming, is in some sort of a financial reporting. I went through the one from last month, but I couldn't really see all that. So I wonder whether, maybe I could talk about it offline, like with David Sandin or something, just so I can it's 10 o'clock at night and, whatever, but just to understand, just to look at just kind of a high level on a monthly basis. I'd just like to know just this financial snapshot, just the, kind of numbers.
No, I agree. And since we haven't met in 3 or 4 weeks, we'll make sure that we'll have a summary next week on the 14th to cover that for everyone.
Well, whatever the building,
where we're at,
whatever the building committee gets, we can get. I mean, that I'm okay with that.
Right. Yep.
And then just going back for my last question, going back to the construction documents. So we're at 60%, and then we're going to be at 90% in June. So that I would assume means that a lot of the finishes, the FF&E, all that stuff will be completed by that time. So I guess, are the groups able to meet offline, or whatever, individuals are meeting with Jean on some of that stuff?
Well, in the environment that we're in right now, the focus has been getting the last packages out to the market. And so I think once those early packages are done and those last submittals are on the street right now, with the proposals are, like I say, I think they're due in by the 11th, and then we'll know what the pricing is, hopefully by the 14th. Then we can move forward on some of those final pieces of the design for sure, and there will be some further engagement with people in the committee and everyone else for sure.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Hi, I apologize ahead of time for there's a crying child in the background, but my question is, will the committee see the 60% CDs now that they've been submitted? And also, since we haven't met as an interior subcommittee, who specing the finishes that he's putting in his CDs, if it's not someone from our side of things.
Well, I think I'm just trying to review the projected work plan, and just let me look here and see for some of the interior finishes. But so the early works packages, and then pardon me, and permitting. Permitting updates. I'm just trying to look here. Design updates. That's a good question, Sarah. And we certainly, I think for next week, that's a good question that we can follow up on with Jean to make sure that we're addressing some of the interior finishes as they go forward. But once again, to keep the project on schedule, some of these early works packages related to whether it was site work, steel, exterior finishes, and some of the contracts that were being awarded. And then when we have the estimate, also that will play a part. Hopefully there won't be any VE that's required based on the way the project is moving forward. And we can, the school will have all of the things that were originally designed in it. So I think we'll be able to work on that as we go forward. But that's a good question. I'll bring that forward to make sure that we can have some discussions about that when we meet next week. Absolutely.
Thank you, David.
All right, that brings us to closing business. Bill, I think we did have one kind of last minute addition that we were going to put under new business. Bill, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry.
No worries.
We do, as a follow-up from an executive session discussion on the memorandum of agreement with the Teachers Association, Joan and I worked on making some adjustments as we discussed. I did send the document out. You may not have seen it, but I do have it on the screen so we can walk through it. And Joan has been hanging with us since the beginning of the meeting. So she is available to do that as well. Let's see. Oh man, do I not have it?
Sarah, is the intent for us to vote on this?
I believe so.
No, we if it is, the adjustments are acceptable, we'd like to take a vote. Hold on one second.
Bill, I have it. I can share my screen if you'd rather.
I need to find the document. Hold on one sec.
Okay.
Just while Bill's looking for that, I just want to say thanks to Joan for hanging in with us all evening. I know I'm exhausted, so thank you.
Yep. I agree.
Well, yeah, damn it.
Sarah, can you pull it up on yours maybe? I mean, I didn't
I
think.
have the email that you had sent us earlier, just before the meeting, Bill.
Can you open the attachments that are on that email
Yeah.
Should be able to.
and share them?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why I cannot.
Is this what you want?
I'm sorry. Is it up?
Yeah. Can you see it?
Can everyone see it?
Yeah, I can see it. Yep.
Yes, that's it. So we have this, and then we have the Appendix A. But why don't I take you through the agreement first? So there were just a couple of changes. You'll see there on the first page, we changed that language if and added it prior to June 30th, 2020. And then if you go to the next page, Jen, the issue of the stipends.
Mm-hmm.
So we've just deleted that with the note that this matter will be determined under a separate agreement. And that's what we discussed a couple of days ago. And those are the only two changes to that piece.
Okay.
And then, Sarah, if you could bring up the Appendix A.
Yep.
All right. So if you scroll to the second page of Appendix A. So first, if you recall from the discussion the other night, on the MOA document, those two changes were, the committee had indicated they would like to see those. So that's that. And then we talked about the language, and so we added language related to the revised DESI guidelines. You can read that in line with the two main focus areas that were included in the revised guidelines released on April 24th. Teachers will work with, I have a hard time seeing it. Teachers will work with administrators and others in continuing to improve the recommended elements of a quality remote learning program, including a focus on teaching the content standards most critical for students' success in the next grade level, and then to continue to move all students towards whatever that says. It's so small, I'm having a hard time reading it.
So it
And
says,
then we added the general comment below.
so it says to continue to move all
Roger,
students.
Sarah?
Yeah, it says to, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, so to continue, the second point on there is
You
to
can make the
continue.
screen larger.
I don't know how to do that because it's,
Okay.
it
Can
says,
everybody else read it? Can you see what it says?
I can see what it says.
Okay, good. So you can read. We don't have to necessarily read it to you.
okay.
No.
Read it.
Yeah, we can read it.
Yeah, I see it.
I'm very close to the screen now, too.
So to continue to move all students towards successful engagement in a remote learning with a focus on addressing the fundamental needs. And then teachers will begin including in their lesson/assignments content from the 2 learning standards identified in the revised SE guidelines with the aim of best preparing students for success at the next grade level. And then if we go to the 3rd page, we changed the use of live virtual video or teacher-generated recorded content with students is encouraged as an opportunity to connect with and or to deliver content. Teachers will connect live with students at a minimum of once per week.
So we eliminated that whole issue of discourage.
Correct. Jen, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, am I on mute? Oh my God, I just quickly wanted to I mean, we read this the other night and these changes are exactly what we had talked about. Just for the folks from the public that are on there, I just figured we should just say that we had to, everyone can go through and read this once we approve it. It will be on our website. But basically it was just some changes we needed to make regarding COVID and how it's affected some of the processes that teachers have in their contract. And that we also, I mean, the big portion of it was adding this appendix, which talks about the remote learning plan, because it's a pretty significant change in how we're delivering content to our students. So just an update for folks on the call.
Thank you, Jen.
Okay, so can I get a motion to accept the memorandum of agreement between the Marblehead Educational Association as well as the Appendix A to accompany that document?
So moved.
Jen moved.
I'll second.
Megan second. Any other comments or questions on that?
Just thanks for your work on this, Bill and Joan, and making the adjustments we talked about.
Absolutely.
I think it looks good.
Yeah, looks good to me too. All right, so we'll call for a vote. Sarah Gold, yes. Megan Taylor?
Yes.
Sarah Fox?
Yes.
David Harris?
Yes.
Jen Schaffner?
Yes.
All right, the motion carries 5-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Joan. Any other new business? All right, then I will adjourn us at 10:28. Thank you, everyone.
All right, everybody, thanks.
Thank you all. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Oh.